Evening and a very warm welcome to all of you who've joined us today for this fortnightly series of Great Place to Work for All webinars. As you know, we have been conducting these sessions and bringing learnings, valuable insights to you straight from conversations with leaders across best workplaces. Our objective has always been to bring to you the practitioner's approach, learning from experiences of these leaders of managing their organizations during the current times, what have been some of their experiences, and can our community, all of you, take something back from these conversations and apply in your own organizations. So that has been our objective for all of these sessions. So thank you so much for joining us. We are looking at more than 400 people across multiple industries to join us today. Most of the guests are from India, but we also have leaders from Sri Lanka, from Gulf and Singapore who have joined. We also have a couple of people from UK and US. So thank you once again. Our topic for today is leadership in financial services, thinking beyond COVID-19. And the idea is again to bring to you two leaders from the financial services sector. Our two special guests for today evening are Mr. Ramesh Iyer, Vice Chairman and Managing Director, Mahindra & Mahindra Financial Services. And our second guest is Ms. Shanti Ekambram, Group President, Consumer Banking at Kotak Mahindra Bank. To ensure, as you would realize, that both of these organizations are very different, the contexts are different, and we thought that for us to really get holistic learning, it will be important for us to have an individual conversation with each of these leaders. So we have changed the design slightly for today's conversation. The way we have structured this is that we will have our CEO, Mr. Prasenjit Bhattacharya, first having a conversation with Mr. Ramesh Iyer. We will then open for Q&A from all of you. Even as the session is going on, I know as of now, all of you are in the listen mode, but you have an option to type in your questions in the question window, even as the session is on, and I'll be kind of looking at it, and we will bring in, if there is something which is very relevant to the conversation, even during the session is on, we will bring in those questions. Now, after the conversation, we will have a dedicated time for Q&A, and then we bring on the conversation with Ms. Shanti, and we will then focus on learnings from Kotak Mahindra Bank. Yeah. Just before I hand over to Prasenjit, I would like to take a moment to welcome and introduce our first guest, Mr. Ramesh Iyer. Please join me in welcoming him and Prasenjit Bhattacharya. Iyer is the Vice Chairman and Managing Director of Mahindra & Mahindra Financial Services. He's the President of the Financial Services sector at the Mahindra Group, and he is also member of the Group Executive Board at Mahindra & Mahindra Limited. His mandate at the group is to drive inclusive growth aligned to their guiding belief of driving rural prosperity. So this is an organization which has been focused on driving this in the rural sector, and he has been instrumental in building this organization since 1994, and now it's India's one of the leading rural finance companies. Mr. Iyer manages the financial services sector, and the total AUM under this sector is over 80,000 crores. He's also director on the board of several other Mahindra Group companies. He is a very active member of the overall financial sector in the country. He's a chairman of the Finance Industry Development Council. He co-chairs the NBFC Committee of IMC Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He is also an active member on various committees like CII, the Banking and Finance Committee of Bombay Chamber of Commerce, and FICCI. He's on the advisory boards of various educational institutions like the IITB, Washington University, Vidyalankar Institute of Technology, We Schools, and College Development Committee of Vivek College of Commerce. So he's someone very, very passionate about people And I have personally had the experience of seeing him even in one of my earlier organizations. He was somebody who would have this knack of really connecting with people on the ground with very interesting stories of his own experience, or he would draw from, Indian mythology. He had this unique way of really taking people along. So I have had the privilege of learning from him and also inviting him earlier to encourage my own team a couple of times. So thank you so much, Ramesh, for joining us today. Without much further ado, I will hand over to Prasenjit to take this conversation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Preeti. And Ramesh, warm welcome to you.
You are not audible, Prasenjit.
I can hear.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes, I can.
Okay. Okay, cool. So, big welcome, and let's take a quick response from the audience. If the audience can hear me as well. Preeti, if you can see on the, on the comments, can people hear me? Yes. Okay, good. I get comments which says that I'm audible. So Ramesh, welcome. And, the first thing that I would like to start with is by asking you to introduce us a little bit more about your company, Mahindra Finance. And for lay people, it sort of associates itself with financing of Mahindra vehicles. And some people even say it is a tractor finance company. And I personally was very, very impressed looking at the kind of activities that your company does. And I know you are the big dada in rural and semi-urban markets. So maybe you can help us understand your business model a little bit, and then we'll move on to the topic at hand.
All right. So thank you very much for inviting me, and welcome to all the participants. Hope at the end of the session there are some takeaways, and through your questions there are some takeaways even for me, because these are times where you look for inputs from everybody, and these are not really gyan giving time but actually gyan receiving time. But having said that, just to clarify on the business model, again, my belief is sometimes it's good that people understand you differently, and therefore you get the benefit of everyone understanding you in their own ways. So if some thinks you're a tractor finance company, a lot of people approach you for tractor financing. Somebody else thinks you're somebody else. So, that's sometime to be good in that kind of a situation as well. But we are definitely a semi-urban, rural focused retail finance company. A company which was set up by Mahindra and Mahindra as a captive, which started only with financing Mahindra vehicles. Then after a few years of operations, moved on to become financing tractors. And then, of course, we broad-based ourselves to be financing all the automobiles, as well as tractors, pre-owned vehicle, construction equipment, so all of those vehicle family. But having done that, we've also set up few more businesses under the financial services sector, which is a rural housing finance company. And to just clarify, we don't do real large houses, but we actually do room addition, room expansion, upgradation of the house and all those kind of stuff. And the ticket sizes are very small, 1.5 lakh, 2 lakh. We have now got into even low cost housing, which is 7 lakh, 10 lakh kind of model. We have an insurance distribution business, which is independent of these two businesses. And we distribute life and general insurance of all companies. The fourth business is we have an asset management company, which again focuses on the semi-urban rural market, distributing mutual fund products, which is designed by us. And we also look at the urban market for mobilizing funds from that market. Apart from all of this, diagonally opposite, we have a joint venture in the US with Rabobank financing tractors in that market. And we have very recently got into a joint venture with a Sri Lankan company for financing of vehicles and tractors in Sri Lanka market with Ideal Finance. So this is the broad base of what we are. Yes, we have got on to add on products over a period of time. And therefore, I won't blame if somebody thinks we are a tractor company or if we are only a Mahindra financing vehicle company, because the name sometimes prescribes that. But to just clarify, we are a broad-based financing company with only 45% of the assets coming from Mahindra vehicles and tractors. 55% of the assets come from non-Mahindra vehicles. So that's the broader explanation of the business model.
Thank you so much, Ramesh, and that's quite interesting. And we started with financial services because there is a lot of stress in this particular industry, and you know the story with some of the banks and the lesser said about non-banking financial corporations, probably the better it is. And in that kind of an environment, when getting access to cheap funds is not as easy for an organization which is not a bank. So therefore, your ability to manage the difference between the cost of funds and the value of funds and is really, really important. So 3 months of moratorium, and when people have the option of not paying back, would it not have hit your business very significantly at this point in time?
I think the answer is definite is, but these are times you'll have to prioritize to decide which stakeholder do you want to address the most. In a normal situation, we all talk about shareholder value creation, we talk about customer centricity, we talk about employee engagement, and we are all over the place trying to satisfy all the stakeholders. When you reach a situation like this, it's extremely important that you first decide on which is your top priority stakeholder whom you want to satisfy, maybe top one and top two. And in our case, I think we were pretty clear when this hit us that it's the customer and the employees who have to be utmost taken care in this situation. It doesn't matter if everyone else below that are a little less remunerative or earning a little less than otherwise. So it doesn't matter. So once you decide that, it's the customer whom you are trying to address, then it doesn't again matter that how much pain you will have to go through, because you have taken that as your fundamental need, that your customer needs to survive this round if you have to survive the future rounds, right? And in that direction, if the moratorium was the only answer on that day, because we had hardly any time to think about what are the other options, right? Suddenly lockdown, customers are not, and it's important to know most of our customers are earn and pay model. If they don't earn, they can't pay. Let's for a minute imagine that there was no moratorium. How does life change? The customer still is not going to pay you because he's not earning. So once you recognize the fundamental fact that your customers are of a certain segment who have to earn to repay, and if you know under these circumstances they are not earning, then try and do the best for them. But is moratorium the best answer? My answer is no. We'll come to that as we progress in our discussion.
Absolutely. I think that's the second part of the discussion where I'm going to talk about your business and business transformation. But just before we go into leadership lessons from COVID-19, the last point I wanted to clarify is you seem to be doing really, really well, particularly in rural India. I was amazed. I read some figure, and correct me if I am wrong, that there are some 200,000 villages where you are present and stuff like that. And why is it that you do well when even banks do not do very well in the rural market, particularly in the kind of business where you have to give money and get it back?
So let me, since you told me, correct me if you're wrong. So we are not in 200,000, we are in 400,000 villages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's
Yes.
one correction. But interestingly, you can look at banking from various angles. You can look at banking from providing money or credit. You can look at banking from providing credit for certain assets. You can look at banking from providing credit for certain customers, right? And therefore, your success, your processes, your business model, training, your ability to communicate, everything will depend on how do you look at your business from, right? So we have looked at our business as providing credit to a customer, and assets in which we provide is only an underlying collateral. People always mistake by saying, oh, you're a tractor financier. No, we are not. We are credit providers to farmers who wants to buy a tractor, and the tractor becomes a collateral. Because if I'm financing in a tractor, my approach to credit will be different from my approach to providing credit to a customer. So we have developed an organization which has have the ability to actually understand a customer in depth. Now, one may call it a social scoring, right? There are credit scoring, there are social scoring. We've chosen the social scoring model because we want to know what the customer background is. We want to know who are his associates in that village, if you may call. We want to know who is willing to stand guarantee for him. We want to understand his reputation in that local market. We want to understand his financial pressure or liability in his family. Who's old? Is there a health issue for which he needs money? Is there a marriageable girl who needs money to be got married to? Are they living in a house which is coming up for repair? Are there young children studying? So we look at very different parameters of lending. We don't look at, what is his bank balance and, how much money does he have? And those kind of things then become incidental if you know the first part very well. The second way we run our business is we don't want customer to come to us. We are willing to go to the customer, right? And again, we will talk about it in the changing COVID scenario. Does that hold good? Will that change and what not? But the fact remains that you go to a customer and you provide credit to someone who themselves didn't believe they can get credit. So you look at the kind of reputation that you've built and the kind of respect you've built and the kind of image you've built in the minds of the customer. And therefore, when he reaches a situation that he has 1 rupee to give and he has to choose between three of them whom to give, we believe he chooses us to give. And that's a reason we possibly are more successful than someone else. And my last comment on this would be, giving money should never be difficult in life, right? I leave some 1,000 rupee on the table and walk away, somebody will pick it up. But you must know who picked it up and how are you going to get it back from them. So the success of the financial services model, while there is enough weightage to how you give, but to know to whom you have given, for what you have given, how will he earn to repay, and if it doesn't, what will you do, has to be well understood. And that's something that by training we have made our people to know, and we have built phenomenal relationship with consumers. And
So
therefore,
if
through the respect, we get better.
So in a nutshell, if I were to summarize it, what I hear you saying, Ramesh, is that your approach to your consumers or customers is more a relationship-based approach where you actually get to know them well, as opposed to the typical standard credit and compliance-based approach, which so many of the banks would have. And that is one of the reasons why to them, you are somebody who is like a friend in need, and therefore you manage to get that 1 rupee where others might struggle. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go forward. But right now, let me jump straight in on the topic that we have, which is COVID-19, its impact and fallout, and then I'm going to go to the second part, which is the future. But coming to this whole thing, in last 55 days, and now, of course, many of your branches have opened up in the green zone or the orange zones. How have you dealt with these last 55 days? And what kind of leadership lessons do you take out of the lockdown phase?
So to be very honest, first 1 week was very exciting. We thought new format, work from home, VCs happening, and you feel you're doing a great job and all that. But if I have to tell you today, this is one of the worst format I have ever experienced in terms of operating. It's pretty boring. It is pretty boring. I mean, I'm just making my comments of what I think, because you want to meet people, you want to interact with people, you want to understand and look at people. You want to take decision by looking at people's body language, right? You don't want to just decide everything on a blanket screen, firm look, over focus. And this format is extremely tiring. At the end of the day, you tire out more than what you do when you physically go to office, because there is no other source of energy which will make you go, right? So that's one big lesson learned, that even though this could be a future format, let's find a way that is only part of the future format and not a permanent format. So that's one big lesson. I think the second big lesson is in a situation like this, sometimes many of your past experience is useless for giving any future direction. Because in the past, first of all, you would not even have gone through similar situation. Second is, this is not a commercial disruption. It's a very health disruption. And therefore, individuals make a lot of conscious calls in this, right? There are family pressures, there are self pressures, and you cannot, force people to do certain things. Unlike in a commercial, let's take demonetization for us. It was a very commercial disruption. And therefore, it could be a top down approach of decision making. It could be very directional from the top. I would think the biggest lesson learned here is, in this round, it's a bottom up. You have to listen to your last man on the ground. So it's like a war virtually, right? I mean, you'll have to listen to the warriors in the front who are fighting the war, and who tells you what can be done, what cannot be done, and then accordingly you design your next step, right? So it's not top down; it's a bottom up. That's one of the biggest learning, I have got out of this. And the third is, you know, uh, this helps you, if at all you ask me, build even a deeper trust amongst your team, right? Because people are all disconnected in far off distances, and you have to rely on their inputs, and you have to decide on the basis of the inputs that you receive. Then you're looking for, what's the overall trust factor in the organization? Is everyone aligned to, that singular problem of we need to come out of this trouble, or is there something leaking somewhere, right? So your trust quotient gets phenomenally tested, and it builds confidence in you to say that when everybody thinks in that direction of trust, the whole confidence of the organization multiplies. So even though 55 days of lockout, tremendous pressure from business, collection, banking, name it in whichever form. But I think we are not feeling pressurized by those, because we think that 20,000 people are aligned to thinking in one direction. People are not thinking of me as individual, they are thinking we as organization, right? So I think these are some of the great thinking and learning. And lastly, I would think this is the learning is that you very quickly know how many useless foolish things that you have been doing in good times. Never I would have been able to make a list of 10 things that we were doing were not required things, and suddenly you realize that drop off all these things, we have been wasting time.
I am reminded we did a webinar with Patu Keswani of Lemon Tree, and he said that before COVID, we thought we had the best industry norms in terms of manpower utilization. And thanks to COVID, we realized how badly we are utilizing our people. And therefore, the new norm after COVID is that we are actually going to have a far more efficient kind of organization. Is that also something that you are sensing as a result of COVID?
Yes, very much. I mean, as I said, many things we are doing because historically that was being done, and nobody ever questioned as to why are we continuing doing this, right? So that continues. Let's take one cash voucher as a very simple example. The cash voucher would have been made 20 years back, which has got people who prepared it, people who okayed it, people who authorized it, people who sanctioned it, people who paid it, right, up to the cashier. Now, these 6, 7 people were initialing it on the strength of the first man's initial, maybe, right? And suddenly you ask a question, today you pay out cash with nobody initialing those. So was there a requirement of 7 people signing this? Now, the voucher designed that way, and there are 7 people in the organization, each one initialing it possibly. It's a very small example. Like this, there would be many such examples that you are not now practicing, and you can get rid of those practices because of this, right? The second is, I think, this is again a belief every one of us have. When the company does well, you seem to believe that you're doing everything best in life. You know everything about your customer. Your deep insight about the customer is phenomenal, and all the certification happens, which is based on result, right? And in this round, you suddenly find that maybe 5% of your customer telephone number itself is wrong in your records. Because when you gave him a loan, he had a telephone number, and over the period of last 3 years, he has changed the number. And because we interact with him many times, we have not bothered to even find out, what are the changes that has happened to him as a person, to his family as a unit, to his telephone number, his business, until such time he is regularly paying.
So,
right?
one
This is other
takeaway.
question which has shocked us to say, we need to know more about our customer and more detail about our customer.
Absolutely. So one takeaway that I get from what you are saying is that as a result of this crisis, your business today and hopefully tomorrow is going to be far more efficient. You talked about bottom-up communication, and I'm just going to play the devil's advocate and ask you a question that with thousands of employees and many of them remotely working from home, some of them are probably underutilized at home, isn't there a tendency amongst the significant section to slacken off? And is productivity not going to be a big challenge for you in the short term? Or do you think that is not the biggest problem that you have right now?
So definitely that's a problem as we speak today, because how do you engage 10, 12,000 people who otherwise are used to just being on the field, meeting customer, meeting dealers and all kinds of stuff, right? Suddenly they're sitting at home and you just tell them, be in touch with customer. You can't just keep talking to customer, getting up in the morning at 9 o'clock and up to evening 6 o'clock daily basis. That doesn't work. So we have to engage them differently. So what we have done is, we have also instituted certain training programs for them on a web base. So, they are engaged better. Then we are communicating with them more regularly about what's happening, what's the decision HO is taking, what is it leading to, right? So you have to engage them differently. But that is not equal to bringing them back with all energy and go back on the ground as things begin to start. But my belief of people, energy, and productivity is an outcome of the overall excitement of the marketplace, right? When the sentiments are weak and when negativism sets in, when the volumes are low, you may do whatever in life you want to do, people productivity will be poor. And when suddenly everything becomes buoyant, even worst of fellows outperform. And we somehow tend to believe that, our intervention has made those magic, but the real magic is on the ground magic. So if we kind of sail through this difficult situation by, reskilling people, by making them more relevant for tomorrow, by engaging them a little differently, by doing things which they have not done in the past and all kinds of stuff, and reach some level of, 3, 4, 6 months of sailing through, I believe that post October, November festival, things will start to look up a little better. And then people will once again get energized and come back to field, and, the productivity issues and things like that can take over. But till then, it's a pressure, it's a cost you have to incur. And that's a cost of this disruption. You can't help it.
And since we are on the topic of people and skilling, do you see a big difference post-COVID in terms of the demands being made from people, the kind of skills which is required, or because you are more of a relationship-oriented kind of business, you don't think that that's going to significantly, dramatically change? And a lot of people in this audience also are from human resources. So from an HR point of view, do you see some significant changes post-COVID?
My thinking, and I would want people to, think possibly in that direction. Don't over imagine about disruption and everything is going to change post COVID 12 months from today. So please differentiate between 1 year life and post 1 year life. This 1 year, 2020 up to March, is going to be very different. It's just not going to have any relevance of the past, right? Even people would fear to go and meet somebody. But is that going to be the life forever? I'm not too sure, right? So it will become a mix of the two. So this year may be hugely different from any time in the past, but 1 year down the line, some of the past practices will creep in again. But we shouldn't forget that you alone changing is meaningless, because everyone around has to change. All the stakeholders have to change. All partners have to change. Whether it's the customer have to change, whether it is the dealerships have to change. But more importantly, I would guess even the regulators have to change. If the whole method of doing business changes for tomorrow, and if your regulators have the same rules and regulations of the past, you will just not be able to meet those needs then, right? Then you will be stuck between, should you have the previous practice to meet regulator norms, or would you change to future to meet the customer requirement? So these are going to be leadership challenges, but I would think definitely things would change. More of technology use will be there. My strong belief, my very my very strong belief is, in the past we always thought product, process, price could make all the difference at the marketplace. I would think product, process, price possibly would become a very hygiene factor, all of us,
Hey,
all
hi,
of us would be.
Shanti. Welcome. I think Shanti has logged in
Hello.
just now.
Yeah.
Is that
So
is that Shanti? Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead,
yeah.
Ramesh.
No, so I'm saying that, product, process, and price would become a hygiene. Nobody can say my product is superior to someone else or my price is better than someone else. All of that would be same. So I think product and price will be taking care on its own. What will make the difference strategically would be people and technology. And to that
Right.
extent, you will clearly see the future strategic differentiators are going to be people and technology. So people have to invest not just into technology, but adequately and appropriately in technology. And second is you will have to ensure people are extremely, extremely relevant for the needs of tomorrow. And the needs of tomorrow could be anything and many things, even ability to do a customer insighting will be a requirement possibly of a field executive. Today, we think that field executive is only a transaction guy. But tomorrow you may have to skill them to be able to meet with customer, understand and go deeper and make sense out of what he or she has seen there and bring that back on table for designing future product and services. So I think those are going to be the changes of future.
I understand. So I think two, three things that you have talked about. A is that this is the opportunity to make the organization far more efficient. You have put in place bottom-up communication measures. You have used this to have a deeper level of trust with. You probably have more than 1,400 offices, Ramesh. Is that correct?
Yeah, about 1,500 branches. That's right. Yeah.
About 1,500 branches, and also the takeaway that I'm getting from what you were saying is that we almost always overestimate the impact of a disruption while the disruption is happening. And looking back after 3-4 years, we probably realized that not everything has changed so dramatically as we may have thought it would change while we were going through it. Uh, what I'm going to do is the last section of this is coming to post lockdown, and more than 500 of your branches have already opened up, and there are some which have not opened up. So, what are your lessons right now as a CEO? What did you do right with bringing back people to your offices, and what are some of your lessons? If you have to advise the rest of us who probably haven't yet opened up our offices, uh, what would be the 3 or 4 advice that you will give?
I think first and foremost is, the way the banking and the BFSI looks at regulatory announcements. We take no risk on any regulatory announcement. We follow as directed, absolutely as directed, with no change at all. And I think in this round, that's exactly what we've done. If there are local administrative directions, if there are state government directions, central government directions, we have first made sure that we don't deviate from any of this for whatever reason. That's the first thing. The second that we've done is we have left it to first to the choice of the employees to decide what the families are saying about their coming back to the branches. If there is a discomfort in coming back to branch, we are telling them, please let us know, and we will try and see what the discomfort is and how do we address that. Right? I think the third is we are saying don't be in a hurry to go out on the field and meet consumers and things like that. First, settle down in a branch, let customers come to the branch, start understanding as to what are they coming for before you can reach out and start doing things outside. The fourth is we don't want anyone in the branch to feel either penalized or being left out because not all of them are going to come to the branch on the same day. A branch has got 10 guys, only 4 of them are allowed to come. If that is true, I don't want the 6 to feel that they are being left out and this 4 is being important, given importance to come to branch. Or the other way around, we don't want the 4 to feel that, I am being penalized while the other 6 is sitting at home. Right? So we've actually made a proper timetable of everyone able to come on a different date and try and do it. Now, for a larger region or a HO kind of a situation, we are also exploring possibilities of 2 shifts. So we are saying let's start from 7 to 1 as one shift, a break of 2 hours to clean up whatever, and then 3 to 7 as the second shift. Right? So that you divide and distribute the work and have less people sitting in the office and you also give opportunity to everybody, and then you just still carry it through what is happening. But more importantly, communicate on a daily basis. As you open the branch, what you see, what's happening, and as you close the branch, what you see, what's happening, and then have a view for what you want to do tomorrow.
And this communication goes to everyone in the management team so that everybody knows what is happening in a branch in, let us say, Madhya Pradesh, and even though it is in a different context.
No, so we've created some kind of a task force at the regional level, state levels, who in turn communicates to the task force at HO level, and then that is summarized for everyone to understand. And there are some people with specific responsibilities on who will handle what kind of input that comes from the branch. If it related to administrative input, handling with the police or government or anybody, there's a set of people who will handle that. If it is related to business, dealerships, banking, etc., there's different set of people who will deal with that. So you will have to create some kind of a task force, if you may call, right? And then learnings of one branch very quickly has to be taken to the other locations as well.
I understand. And I think that actually means that by the time your orange and red zones open up, you are actually ready with the complete template on what to do so they don't repeat the mistakes, if any.
That's right. So 500 branches open, 350 branches are almost ready to open during the next couple of days. Right. So we would be 700, 800 branches or upward already up and running. And then the red zones will get the direction.
What we'll do, Ramesh, is that we will have a few questions for you, which have already started coming in. But before that, I want a quick poll on what are the top 3 challenges for people in the audience when they open up. What do they perceive as the top 3 challenges for their organization? So if I can ask my team to put up the poll now for the audience, and it's a multi-choice poll, but I would request you to only tell us which are the first 3 or the top 3 challenges. Just select 3 out of all the options which are now there on the panel to your right. You can see the options. We'll just give you 20 seconds to complete this. And then I'm going to continue my conversation with Ramesh. So Preeti, if you want to come in at this point in time and tell us which are 1 or 2 questions which have been directed towards Ramesh, that would be also very useful.
Yeah, hi. I think as the whole is getting this thing, we'll also look at the questions. Just give me a second. And people, as you complete your poll, you can also keep typing in the questions.
I have one question for Ramesh, but Preeti, the audience will get the first priority. Okay. So Ramesh, from what I realize, 400 villages and
400,000.
400, I'm sorry, 400,000 villages. I'm still getting used to it, which is
4 lakh.
4 lakh villages, which is a very large part of the villages in India, isn't it, Ramesh?
Yes, about 6 lakh odd village, of which 4 lakh villages we have our customers.
Oh my God, 66% of the villages in this country. There is no better organization to do a survey of what's happening in rural India or semi-urban India. Now, if we keep aside the migrant workers challenge, which is a very big challenge that we are dealing with for the time being, how do you see the situation in rural India and semi-urban India? Are they going in a position to bounce back after some time? Or do you think they're also going to go through a very tough phase? What's your take?
So this problem that we are going through is a very rich man urban problem. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it is not a rural problem, right? It attacked all the cities like Mumbai, Chennai, Bangalore, Pune, Nagpur, whatever, Ahmedabad, right? So the rural is actually virtually looking at us and laughing to say, why is this whole lockdown? We don't see a problem here. And slowly they started to realize that this seems to be a bigger problem, and a lot of people of ours who are living in city are now going to come here, and are they going to bring the problem to us? Right? So fortunately, they started to act before this problem can hurt them or hit them. So my belief is that rural bounce back will be much, much faster, and they will actually change the tide of the economy, if you may ask, for certain reasons. The tractor bounce back we are already seeing, right? The farm this time the harvest was good, so the farm cash flow is holding up. So therefore, we see positive sentiments out there. If the monsoon turns out to be average plus, you will see even the next season turning out to be good. Which is why I keep saying, any change in sentiments you will see post festival, and this will trigger from rural. This is not going to trigger from urban, right? Even 2008, 9, when the meltdown happened, all of us in cities were writing scenarios and options and all kinds of stuff, and the rural was already up and running. So I think if the government focus is towards rural, if infrastructure opens up like mining, coal, road, right, the labor absorption has to happen in rural, including migrant labor, which has gone back. So, and NREGA scheme, which will allow local labor to get redeployed. Asset absorption will start from there. The consumption story will begin from there. Because I've seen from my experience in rural, when the farm and infra cash flow both does well, rural booms. Rural booms, right? And if one of the two
Understood.
doesn't do well, they go slow. Both doesn't do well, we have seen disaster. So I think in this round, we are fortunate that the crop is done well, the monsoon is expected to be good, and if government push on infra happens, then you will see that infra and farm cash flow both kicking together. You could see a turnaround story from rural.
Wow. So that would be a case of Bharat saving coming to India's rescue, metaphorically. So, Preeti, any
I
question
take a
from your
moment
side?
to,
Yeah.
yeah, just before that, I think on the poll results,
Yes.
the top challenge that we see is the mindset change to the new
Yes.
ways of working. So, which I think
Oh,
is not
wow.
really a
Okay. I
surprise,
didn't
but
expect that to be
but that's
the top
number
challenge.
one. Followed
Yes.
by
Yes.
the cost, managing the cost and cash flows, which was also an option. But that is number two. The top one is the mindset change. Second is,
Wow.
managing cost and cash flows.
So,
Then
So,
is
Ramesh,
going
India's top 100 best companies 2014, right up to the current year, and best company in Asia 2019-20. You are an expert on mindset change. So, tell us
no, so
about
I
this.
exactly said that right when I started. I said
Yes.
your past
Yes.
experience is going to be useless giving
Mm.
solution for future, right? So that is nothing but a mindset change. All of us, including me as a leader, have to agree and bring about, right? We can't try to give solutions of some experiences of the past.
Sure.
Like for example, let me give you a most simplest example. So if somebody is not repaying your loan, in the past we would say just go and pick up his asset, right? Is that a solution for future? Believe in me, at least for next 1 year, that will be the most useless solution if you go to tell your people to do. Because the reasons for somebody not paying is very circumstantial and not intentional, right? And the circumstantial problems have to be handled with a different set of solution, and that solution is a partnership approach. So my advice would be, when you talk of mindset change, be willing to partner people, including your own competition, because these are problems which all of us are going to face, and it's a very common problem. And unless we all work together in this, you will not find a solution. So I would think take a partnership approach, which will help change your mindset. I think second is respect every level in an organization and not hierarchical to say I'm the senior most, so I know more than everybody else has to be kept aside. You will have to say this is a time where someone at the junior most level knows more than someone at the senior most level, because he or she is facing it right on the ground there. So listen to them. So listening more to people at a very junior level to really arrive at certain solutions. I think three is don't be over pressurized by growth, but be definitely pressurized by bringing stability to your business and not growth to your business. Because that's a big mindset change we will all have to bring, because we'll start worrying about, oh, I built a large organization. If I don't have growth, I'm going to have cost problem. If I have cost problem, then I'm going to have margin issues. If I have margin issues, I have stakeholder issues. You go that path and try to do something not correct. So I think please accept that the volumes will shrink, and you accept that as a reality, and go deeper and build stronger fundamentals to your business if you believe in mindset change required to be brought in. And please let go things which even in the past has given you success. But if you believe that's not going to give you success going forward, have the guts to give it up. Have the guts to give it up. And my last comment would be that be extremely transparent in this round with everybody you deal with, whether with your employee, whether with your regulator, whether with your banker. As transparent you can be, I think you will make a big difference for yourself at the marketplace. If you try to camouflage, like if you're going to cut salaries of people, I think have the confidence to address people to say the need and reasons for doing it, and don't do it through a office memo gone through a mail or a WhatsApp for people to read and get shocked up on it.
I understand.
Right? So I would think transparency, ethical practices, highest respect to governance will all play a very significant role. But whatever other things that I said of, what you should be willing to give up, listening to the junior most in the organization, and do not press people to use your past experience as solution to future. All of that will become extremely necessary if we believe that we are rebuilding businesses, rebuilding organizations.
Sure.
Very relevant. I think we have time for one last question. Maybe
because I think
Preeti,
Shanti is also
before we
joined
start
us.
Shanti's session.
So,
Yes.
right. So this is on, how do you see transformation in technology changing your business, Ramesh, specifically, and overall in the financial sector? That we have come to
So I
three
think it is not because of COVID. Even otherwise, the financial services was believing that, digital disruption will happen. Not everybody would want to only physically interact for borrowing and lending. I mean, borrowing and repaying. And therefore, there was enough initiative that had taken place on the digital front. And I think that is something which will fast forward now. I mean, it'll kind of happen much faster than we all anticipated, right? For sure. That is one big thing. I think the second big thing is using data very sensibly, but not the data that you have stored from the past, because you'll have to clean up those data, because some of the input in that may not be very relevant for future, because those should have been under a different circumstances, right? So you will have to refresh your data very quickly, get more relevant current data, but use data more sensibly for making any future design of both product and service and delivering them to consumer. I think these two pieces will be very, very important when it comes to technology. And then, of course, finally, use the most simplest form of technology, which is easy to use both by employees and by customers. Because if it is complicated for customer, they will never use. If it is complicated to implement for employees, they will never use. So try and bring the most simple technology. Let's not look for big words. Let's not look for something which sounds very fancy. Let's not look for something which some large organization has used and made wonders out of that. Let's look for what is extremely relevant for a business like ours. We would like to do that, even if you have told that you don't have the latest, but we will not mind that comment, rather than somebody saying that you have got something which cannot be used. So we would rather have the most simple but very easily able to use kind of a technology to make it convenient for customer and employees.
Sure.
Absolutely. I mean, I wish we could go on and on, but this has been amazing conversation, Ramesh. I remember last time I met you in your office, you talked about two sets of competencies, and you also said that rarely do you find both of them in the same person. One is data analytics, which is linked to technology, and the second is relationships and managing relationships. And therefore, both of these are going to become really, really important.
Yeah, I always say knowledge and data have to go together. It cannot be that you have a lot of knowledge, but you have no data, and it's not possible you have a lot of data, but you have no knowledge about what that item is. So knowledge and data have to be of equal measure.
So thank you so much for your time. This has been a real pleasure. We are going to, I hope this is recorded, Preeti, and we'll be able to access the recording so that we can go back and circulate all the salient points at the end of this one.
So I just wanted to thank you. You made it easy and comfortable for me to be able to participate. And thank you for inviting, and thank you all the participants. Hope it was of any use to you. Thank you.
It was brilliant. Thank you so much, Ramesh. And a warm welcome to Shanti. So Preeti, you'd like to introduce Shanti?
Yes. Just before we get into the conversation, I know everyone is waiting to hear Shanti now, but let me take a moment to really welcome our guest Shanti Ekamram, Group President, Consumer Banking at Kotak Mahindra Bank. I'll just take a moment to do that before we get into the conversation. So welcome, Shanti. Shanti heads the consumer banking business at Kotak Mahindra Bank. She has been leading this business since April 2014 and is focused on growing the customer acquisition, the cross-sell, digital adoption across various channels, and across making it an integrated consumer banking franchise across both asset and liability products. She's been a part of the group and drives and oversees the Kotak Mahindra's group's growth charter. So she's one of the women leaders who's seen and ensured the growth that the bank has seen in the last several years. She has been associated with the group since over 28 years and has been responsible for successfully setting up several business units. And prior to this, Shanti was the president of corporate and investment banking. She led that for 11 years, where she was responsible for ensuring delivery of comprehensive advisory and financial solutions to both public and private sector. She has also been recognized by Business Today among the most powerful women in the Indian business and definitely also in the financial sector. She's also on the board of IIM Bangalore. She's a philanthropist, philanthropist at heart, and has been supporting several NGOs for causes which she believes in. She's a marathoner, somebody who's fit, not just on the business front. I think on the personal front, she's very passionate about managing her health, and while running, she often raising funds for some of these causes that she believes in. So thank you so much, Shanti, for taking out time today, and look forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Preeti.
Welcome, Shanti. And as you know, the format is that we have two financial services organizations. Ramesh has just talked about his experience, and it's very interesting for us to understand how does a broad-based bank look at the current crisis and beyond the current crisis. And I think, but before we start, we want to get a gist of the DNA of Kotak Mahindra and Kotak Mahindra Bank in particular. I remember 2007 was the first time that Great Place to Work had the opportunity to do a survey with the bank, and we were so impressed with the culture that you had created at that time and continue to be impressed. A lot of people know about Kotak Mahindra Bank as somebody, as an organization which is fairly conservative. Most people know that your non-performing asset is normally on the lower side. It's probably less than 3%. People also keep hearing about Reserve Bank trying to persuade Mr. Kotak every now and then to give some stake to somebody or the other. And recently, I think $1 billion came from some institutional investors, if I remember correctly. So what is this bank all about? And is there an ethos or a culture that describes this particular bank, considering that so many other banks and financial services are in the news for wrong reasons?
I could not hear the. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I could not hear the last part. So let me very briefly talk about Kotak. We are a 35-year-old institution. November 1985, we started as Kotak Mahindra Finance Limited. We were an NBFC till 2003 when we got a banking license, and have been a bank for the last, since 2003 March when we launched the bank. 1,600 branches. We are the second largest market capitalization bank amongst private sector banks. We are young as an institution and amongst the top 3 private sector banks in the country. I think few things define us. First is, we are all professional entrepreneurs. Uday is an entrepreneur by himself, but I think the team of Kotak, and you will see that the core team, management team, has been around for more than 20 years. I've been there more than 28 years. Most of the core team is almost in that category, 25 years around that. And we are all professional, but we are entrepreneurs. So one of the key things that defines Kotak is the management team, and also the next few levels of management are all professional entrepreneurs. So while we are known for being conservative, I think we are also known for being, when we cite an opportunity, we really look to it and try and see how we can really come to the forefront. And one of the key examples of that I can see in the digital age is when, in the demonetization, wake of demonetization, it was very difficult. We came out with 811, a digital account or savings account opening proposition, which people can do from the comfort of their home or office in 3 minutes. And 2 days ago, we launched video KYC. So with 811 and video KYC, from the comfort of your home or office in this no contact COVID environment, we can, open an account for a customer. So we are aggressive in seeking opportunities. We are a very strong non-hierarchical culture. Anybody can reach the top. We have a no closed door policy. Anybody can talk to anybody. And I think these are some of the cultural fabric that has made Kotak what it is. And it's still so. We have very high middle class values. That's what we call ourselves, middle class values. And that really defines Kotak.
Wow, I think that's really interesting, considering that there are many other examples of financial services organizations who are seemingly pursuing growth at all cost. I'm going to jump right into the discussion today, which is all about how you have dealt with COVID and post-COVID kind of situation. So in your long leadership stint, Shanti, you have seen many downturns, 2008-9 being one of the latest. But have you ever seen a situation like this? And what really struck you about the current situation, and how is it different for your bank than anything else that you have faced before?
So clearly, in my lifetime, and I think in Kotak's lifetime, we have never seen anything like this, nor have we dreamt about it. I think this is a COVID-like environment has come back after 100 years. I was told that the Spanish flu in, something had this thing like that. And the very different part of this is really that it was for fight for life. 2008-9 was financial crisis. You know how to deal with financial crises. You batten the hatches, you look at your liquidity, you look at capital, you look at a lot of things which is financial, which is at the core of your business. But when you look at life and livelihoods, you've never encountered something like this before. And it brought a lot of leadership challenges, mindset changes, but also very quickly we saw many opportunities that we could tap. But I think it puts our organization into what I call a survival mode. You have to survive and sustain. If you survive and sustain for the longer term, there will be huge opportunities because there will be consolidation and opportunities. So you switch to something like survival and what I call sustainable mode, which is what we saw. It taught us never say never. If in the month of January I was sitting around with my team and I'm saying, you know what, 25% of you are going to work from home and rest are going to come to office, they would all laugh. They said, our business is so physical, we have branches, we have customers, we come to office every day. Now, people are saying, guess what? We can be more productive. We are engaging more. We can serve our customers. We are doing our core business even while sitting at home. So it is like breaking a mindset to say anything is possible. Third, I think communicate. I think we're all operating digitally and it helps us address 500 people while in a physical mode it used to be very different. So I think the interaction and engagement with customers and employees have gone up significantly. And I believe there is no limit on the ability of humans to adapt when they get into survival mode. Another important lesson, ultimately at the human level, we are all the same. Hierarchies don't matter, rich and poor don't matter. Nothing matters when it is lives and livelihood. And you have to keep going at it. So in every crisis, there's an opportunity. We saw the opportunities in this. We grabbed it, and ensuring that our employees and customers are in complete alignment. And we have to lead by example. For example, I talked about sustainability. First thing that Kotak management did, we know the bank has done, is we took a 15% salary cut at the management level because we believe that we want to sustain, and there are a larger number of people that we employ, and we need to sustain the organization when we go back, and more such things. So these are the first things that come to my mind.
Right. I think one of the things which you said, which is very interesting, is that if you survive, there are enough opportunities to try. Because what happens is that when there is a complete reduction of, let us say, demand, or there are others who are not prepared, and that is the opportunity for consolidation. Now,
Yes.
if you were to uh, sort of summarize your personal learning as a leader in the last 55 days, saying that these are the 2 or 3 things that I have learned as a leader, and even though I have gone through tough phases in the past, but these 55 days have taught me the importance of these 3 things really, really well. What would be those 3 things?
So I said one or two things, which is
Yes.
that there is no end to adaptability of people. And I refer to human beings, whether it's employees or customers. Our business has was always digital significantly, but has gone even more. There's an 87-year-old gentleman who called, who said, now I want to learn how to use the mobile banking app. I want to pay my employees' salaries. I want transactions. 87-year-old customer. He's a very famous guy. Yeah. So there is no end to adaptability. When up to now he says, oh, no, I'm scared, digital means fraud, etc., etc. So human beings adapt. Call centers. We run call centers, huge call centers with people. Today we are serving customers, and all of them are doing it from their home. It would have never been envisaged, 2 or 3 months ago, that we can serve customers round the clock from home. It needed technology, it needed skills, it needed people to get adapt. So I think the human mind adaptability when getting into survival mode. And as a leader, what it taught me is that if you engage, if you communicate, if you motivate, and if you sort of, put something in front of people, they will respond. And it's the same with customers. Our business model is around our customers and our employees. In my mind, both of them have taught me a hell of a lot in the last 15 days on adaptability, change, survival, and progress.
I think that's interesting because one of the questions, and I'll refer back to the poll that we did, and Preeti, you can keep the responses ready with you. The number one thing that people said is, how do you change mindset? And what I hear you saying is, if the context is right and there is the right kind of levers, then anybody can change their mindset, including the 87-year-old person that you refer to, who would normally, as a customer, not do what he's doing today. Uh,
Yes.
and that's interesting. Now, my next question is related to that. My next question is, how do you plan to use this as an opportunity for business transformation? And as you go about, I mean, you have always been very competitive, and your stock price is, or even when everybody else's comes down, it probably still is slightly higher than others. So what is your plan to transform your business? Are you using this as an opportunity? If so, would you like to go into specifics of how you are planning to change your business?
So if you look at the core of our business, Prasenjit, it is about acquiring, serving, transacting with, and ensuring that our customers have a value proposition across 4 broad buckets of what I call saving, investment, borrowing, as well as protection. Very interestingly, I talked about how we always had a digital product. last year, our average run rate of customer acquisition on our 811 platform was around some 12,000 odd. In the month of May so far, my run rate is almost approximately 14,000 customers. We have used this opportunity to reach out to the market and keep our acquisition engine ticking, which is get customers in. Second, at a time like this, when there was a worry about survival, people think about protection, protecting their lives, protecting their homes, protecting their loved ones, protecting whatever. And we said, let us create small, fully digital end-to-end protection products on the insurance side, whether it's life, home, and we work with our partners. And it is just amazing how customers have adopted to it. And it is just amazing the trends we're seeing in the last 2 months. Third, Indians always love, what I call, they have the little bit of a instinct for trading, gambling, trying something new. People are sitting at home. The number of day traders that this crisis has spawned is more than 1 million. This is a newspaper report I'm quoting. But we have a securities business, and we obviously, the number of customers we have onboarded onto our platform for looking at markets, investment, learning, wanting to learn skills, etc., and then doing business. So we are seeing an opportunity just from studying consumer behavior, talking to customers, engaging with customers, finding out what's on their mind, fear, opportunity, greed, whatever, and responding to the situation, but creating products end to end digital. I think when the lockdown, a second thing, very important. Unlike other businesses, we have been open right through the 50 days of lockdown. Right, banking is an essential service. All our 1,600 branches have been open. Yes, we have rostered our service and branch managers staff more than sales staff at about 30 to 50%, depending on the zone. So we will continue that. So it is not that we are going to open our branches. It has been open. Customers have been appreciating. Our staff have gone beyond the call of duty, delivered medicines to a diabetic customer who could not go out, delivered grocery to some other customer, old lady who could not go out. So we'll continue. But what will be different is I think work from home will become a norm. Creating a digitized products and the digitized journey for every product so that the customer can transact will be there. We will have branches, but it's a customer's choice to come. I think customers will prefer to do more and more digital transactions. Technology and keep on innovating what you can will be some of the things I think will change. Upskilling people, upskilling your platforms, looking at safety and sanitization. Some of these things will be what I call the changes that you will see.
Let me take up the people part of the business, and I'm going to ask you three sub questions on the people part.
Yeah.
Like you said, your senior management, most of you have been together for 20 years plus, and I am assuming therefore you have a very good understanding and rapport, and you don't have the issues that you have when you suddenly induct 30%, 40% managers at senior management levels from outside. So you have a cohesive team, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all your 1,600 branches will also have the kind of leadership that you need. So in ensuring the kind of leadership that you require in a situation like this, what is your experience? Do you have the right kind of leadership for a war, or do you have a peacetime cabinet? How did you prepare your managers to deal with the current situation?
So I think, if you're asking me in wartime and peacetime, is there a difference? I think there is a difference. But, what happens in a war and what happens in peacetime? In war, you have to have some element of command culture versus consensus because you have to react to situations very quickly. So if someone's attacking you, you can't say, wait, I will consult some 20 people and come back to you. You got to take a decision. You got to get to the team and say, okay, team, this is the strategy. We've got to win. We got to conquer. Let's get going. And people respond. Yeah. But the important thing is, as a leader, your levels of communication, your transparency, your reasoning, and the logic for what you want to do, and rallying, that you are rallying to win and to, is very important. So your leadership skills at this time of being able to communicate, motivate, transparency, showing logic, rallying, goal, all that is extremely important. Because time is of essence and quick reaction is important. Yeah. Real-time engagement of the troop. I'm sure all of you saw the movie Uri. How's the Josh? You got to keep testing the Josh. That people are not flagging, because remember, we're dealing with a situation where lives are at stake too. And so you have to keep testing and engaging the Josh all the time. So it's a hands-on leadership, which is a daily, weekly engagement, versus in peacetime when you could have said, okay, I'll meet you, maybe once in 15 days, once a month, I will take a review. Here on a daily basis, with sets of managers, I can talk about myself from 5 o'clock in the evening till 9 o'clock at night. I'm just talking to different teams, engaging, motivating, providing feedback. Come on, guys, great job, good idea, let's do this, etc. Hands-on leadership, real-time information and data to them and to the leaders to monitor and course correct, cut across hierarchies. In wartime, in such times, hierarchies don't work. Oh, I'll tell the next level, who'll tell the next level. Cut the hierarchies, reach right to the frontline troops, and make sure they understand the mission and the we need to do. So I think these are things that are very critical as leadership in such times versus a normal time.
So you talked a lot about communication, transparency, real-time information. Would it be correct to say that therefore you have the technology and the processes to make sure that communication goes up and goes down very fast within your organization? That's something that you have put in place.
Yes, in such time, for example, thanks to the COVID situation, whether it is Zoom, whether it is LightSight, whether it's WebEx, all video conferencing facilities, you're real time talking to people, you're real time on conference calls, right? So technology today has enabled, we were always on the technology side, always focused on our businesses on tech and digital. But from employee engagement and communication, it's just possible for everybody, 20 people, 30 people, 40 people can get onto a call and just talk, engage, disperse, and then move.
So just on an aside, I can't resist sort of taking a bit of a dig. For years, we kept on talking to large banks, and they said, no, in our business, we have this 4I principle. We cannot allow people to operate from home, many things because of compliance requirements, etc. Now, did some of your own sort of assumptions got changed as a result of the situation this time?
No, in fact, we have upped our control system at such times, because in a physical world, what happens is the customer sends, the documents, the customer signs, the customer comes physically, etc. In a digital world, the number of frauds go up significantly. So in fact, one of the first things we did was upped our fraud control mechanisms, and we have put in place processes that moves digitally but ensures that risk management is taken care of. I think, one of the things that has not changed in pre-COVID times and post-COVID times, in fact, I think in post-COVID times is very relevant, is risk management in each and every aspect of our business. So it is not about 4Is. I think it is about how do you control risks and how do you control frauds, you control compliance. I think compliance and governance is the cornerstone of any organization, and that cannot be compromised at any point in time. That is the very purpose of your existence. But what you do is you can put in place digital mechanisms for control. So that is the difference. So you don't need 5 people or 4 people sitting together.
I understand. Shanti, I'm going to come to another question which you have been asked in different forums, diversity, inclusion, and other forums. There is a different price that is being paid by men and women for this lockdown, particularly people who are operating from homes. And a lot of reports that come to us suggest that women are paying a slightly heavier price depending on the situation, because there are a whole lot of things that you have to do. You don't have the support structure. and then you have to manage your office, from home. And in this context, employee wellness has become a very big challenge. There are reports about people wanting to speak more to the counselors. What is your observation on what would be the psychological, emotional sort of stress that people take when they operate from home, particularly if they don't have a start time and an end time?
So what you've said is very relevant. I can talk about myself. I am working significantly more than what I was when I was in office. At least the time I spend on these, video calls and other calls, etc. There is no time. There is no day. So day of the week is blurred. Saturday, Sunday, timing 8:30, 10, 11 at night, etc. Second, I think it is true that because of the lack of help. I can talk about it from personal experience. I had 3, 4 maids. Nobody comes in, right? You have to do home. You have to do office. Does have a wear and tear on people, but more importantly, human beings are social animals. They're not used to being cooped up at home. And Indians, more than anything else, are social. Families, weddings, parties, going out, etc. So this whole social engagement has come to a standstill, and people are at home and stressed because they have to manage home, they have to manage office. To be very fair, I can tell you, I have male colleagues, and all of them are helping out at home, whether it is doing jharu pocha, whether it is supporting in getting vegetables, looking after the kids, everybody's working. So it's not just the men, it's even the women. So as an organization, we realize that there is inbuilt stress in employees. And we have the human resources team on a daily basis as something or the other for employee engagement. Whether it's a yoga session, whether it's counselors, whether it's something for the kids, whether it's just taking a break, whether it's a music on Mother's Day, all the women, we made sure that, and for the male colleague's wife, etc., we had a music program. So I think it well-being of employees has become center because of this lack of any social engagement and a pressure cooker kind of environment. We have been going out of our way, and I think that is going to be the norm going forward, Prasenjit, because I believe work from home will continue. So yes, you're right. I think there is pressure, and we just have to provide the necessary support to make sure that they're all well.
One of the things that we used to think is that employee engagement is about that individual being engaged. Today, he is a part of the family unit, and he's sitting in the same room and competing for the bandwidth with maybe 3 others. And therefore, the context of the employee and the family, actually, it's probably the family engagement, because whether this person is working at a great place to work or not, the family knows about it by now. They have figured it out. So therefore, organizations must have to keep the family in any of their engagement strategies, and I assume that's what you are also doing. However, I think coming to the demands that are going to be put in on people post COVID, if I look at what's going to happen in the next 6 months to 1 year, how do you see things changing post the lockdown? And in any case, you never had a lockdown because you were serving. But after the government eases out the restrictions, from a HR point of view or people point of view, do you see significant changes for employees and for the HR function?
So, firstly, before I get on to that, on a lighter note, I always say that now conference calls and video calls are enriched because you can hear kids bawl, you can hear dogs bark, you can hear the koel sing, you can see the birds chatter. It's all become a family because they're all around the home, right? So it's our calls have become richer because of that. And sometimes you have to tell a colleague, "Can you mute? We love dogs. Can you mute? I want to hear what the other person is saying." Let me come to your question. So I think it is probably going to be different, and people will have to learn to adapt. And one of the first things I think, I have the statement which I say, that we need to break this cultural handicap of I need to be in the same room as somebody else to get work done from him or her. That's got to break. That's how it has been traditionally, and that's how it is not going to be. I think work from home, I think, is a great thing for two, three reasons. One, in a city like Mumbai or Delhi, the commute is so stressful. You can save 2 hours. And I think that an employee, if you can rotate and make sure that they work from home and just come, physically for maybe once a week or whatever you can roster them on, it's going to be different. Second, safer. Nighttime call centers. Can I have, some of these ladies and girls work from home and still service customers? That adds to the safety. Third, it saves on a lot of real estate. In California, you have hotspotting. So people work from home, come, they don't have desks, and they sit at a desk, open their laptop, continue to work, etc. Virtual meeting rooms. So many things will change. I think what could change from organization perspective is that virtual meeting rooms versus physical meeting rooms, organization hierarchies will have to be relooked. I think productivity will increase, but stress will also increase. So you've got to constantly work on how do you de-stress people. Yeah, they may not have a permanent desk. Another advantage could be that you can use part-time resources. Today, you have a lot of competent. You talked about diversity. I know a lot of educated, competent women who have to stay at home for whatever reason. Can we engage that force now that we know how to do work from home for 5, 6, 7 hours a day and make use of more resources that is available? Video interactions will be a way of life. So I think from human resource angle, first is the mindset, cultural adaptation, skilling is what will change in an employee's life. From a human resource angle, I think the wellness of employees, the ability and monitoring the employees' adaptation to the change is going to become important. And monitoring tools that a person is indeed working from home, is indeed marking absence. See, we are so used to people coming in and marking your attendance, albeit digitally, right? Some of these things will change. How do you, performance evaluations? A lot of tools need to be built in addition to the mental and the physical and the all-round well-being of an employee.
See, there was always a talk, and that's been a talk for a long time, that technology is going to take away jobs, particularly in large banks, where so many layers will get reduced to lesser number of levels. And now, of course, this is only going to accelerate the process of technology adoption. So what would be your advice to an employee in financial services or in a bank? Well, how do I, if I am a 24-year-old employee, how do I prepare myself for a fruitful career in this industry in future?
So I think young employees in any case are equipped with more digital skills and knowledge than the older employees. So what is the business model? At the core of our business, it is still customers. That's not changing. Yeah, but the mode of delivery, the mode of service, the mode of products, and the interaction with customers is what will change. Otherwise, our core business is still customers, transactions, products, service. These are all our core propositions. But how we acquire, interact, serve, cross-sell with them is going to change, and the form factor is going to change. So for an employee, they have to learn to adapt to the new methods of how to deal with customers right from acquisition to cross-sell. Second, the very basis of our business even today is data analytics. Every relationship manager has a complete dashboard on his or her customers. Today, they will have to access it through the mobile, they will have to digitally. So understanding data, understanding the power of what data can do, acting on it, then very diligently, updating your daily records so that your supervisors can monitor. So discipline, skills, data and digital adoption is what is going to become very important in the future. Some basic things about customer management, which is relationship, empathy, how you deal with customers, are now going to change. Those cultural aspects, whether you talk over a phone or you meet a customer, is going to be the same. But the skills of how you will deliver a product, deliver a service, acquire a customer, will be changing.
So I wish we can go on, but Preeti, if you can come on the screen and tell us which are some of the questions that people have for Shanti, and then what we do is quickly take a few questions, and then we will have to close since we are running short on time. Let me see if I can access some of the questions. Okay, Preeti's screen is giving some problems, so therefore I am going to take one or two questions, and while she figures out how to come online. So Shanti, question is, what the top three expectations that you say: mindset change, skilling, and employee wellness, because stress is going to increase. So therefore, HR has to focus on mindset change, on skilling of people, and on employee wellness. So therefore, is there a difference in what HR has been doing in the past and what human resources will have to do now?
You see, in a way, it is broadly common. You used to have employees around you. You will have to deal with them in a what you call a different mode, and that is quite different. To sit across with an employee, look at body language, understand, and convince is very different when you're talking to employees digitally. So even HR human resources have to learn to upskill to say, how can I recognize emotion? How can I connect? How can I read body language over digital, which is not always necessarily given the bandwidth and connectivity, the right way. Second, you know, it's easy to upskilling, but it is not always easy. How do you tell an employee, you got to learn these skills. You have to, be disciplined. You have to do a lot of things. And I think from a wellness aspect, in the physical world, it was more about ensuring employees have fun, they interact, they engage, etc. Here it is real wellness, which is your physical and mental, wellness. When in a post-COVID world is going to be different. So I think the manner of doing things, the focus will slightly shift from what it was when it was a very physical engagement.
There is one question that Ajoy Ruia from Allstate is asking. He's saying that there are some people who are going out of their way in today's situation. And how do you recognize and reward people who are really showing leadership? Because right now your ability to reward people might also be limited. So is there any way in which you are recognizing or incentivizing people to give the right
So,
behaviors? Yeah.
so if I were to share, I mean, I can be here all night. We have a bank of stories of employees who've gone out of the way. And I'll tell you a recent example 3 days ago, where there is a branch staff at Lucknow, where we have a customer who's a 60-year-old customer, and because of the lockdown, he was diabetic, he was not able to get the medicine from his regular shop. And he was talking to the bank employee saying, this is my problem, when he was wanting to do a transaction. The employee went out of his way, searched his medical stores, found where this medicine, and delivered it to the customer. I can't tell you how grateful and thankful that this customer was, because it was the very life that he was dealing with. We made sure that we published this story right up to Uday Kotak to every one of our 50,000 employees. Right? Myself and one of our leaders called the person and congratulated the leadership level. We made a hero out of stories, and on a daily basis, we are making a heroes out of heroes and heroines out of such stories. Human psychology, recognition is a number one thing. Incentives come later. That my good work is being recognized infuses pride in people and makes them go that extra distance. And we are going out of the way to publicize these stories, congratulate them, and make them feel good about it.
I think that's amazing, because that's what we see in so many organizations. Ramesh Iyer was saying that every day across 500 plus branches, they capture these stories. and they circulate it to the entire organization. And that feeling that comes from knowing that I might be in a remote branch, but the entire organization today is talking about my initiative. I think that is an amazing, amazing reward. Welcome back, Preeti. And that's one of the things about technology that we are talking about.
Technology, yeah.
That
But I
we
could
have
hear
to
you,
get used
so
to.
that was good. I didn't miss out on the session, Shanti.
You know, the good thing is we have backup, so all the questions also started coming on my screen, so we didn't miss much.
Okay.
The
So
last,
the next, yeah.
so one question we'll take before we, I know we have come almost towards the end, but one question which is there top of mind for many people is the fear of job security. And this is very challenging for companies as well as employees. It is one thing to say, don't worry about job security, your jobs will be protected, we are very strong financially. Suppose that is not true. Suppose you don't know as a leader whether you can protect jobs. Of course, you will start by taking pay cuts and all of that. Have you ever faced tough decisions like that, Shanti? And is there any right way of going about it? Are there some principles which you refer to?
See, we can't, pull wool over our eyes and say that come 1st of June, things will be back to normal to pre-March 15th. It is not going to be normal, right? So, business line and function, you have to reassess every line of business, revenues, and cost. At the end of the day, companies are there for ensuring answerable to all their stakeholders, customers, employees, shareholders, and return on capital. So what's going to happen once if things come back to a little bit of normalcy is you're going to have to reassess every business revenue line and cost line. Employees and infrastructure are a big part of the cost of any organization. Yeah? And while you will have to segregate between long-term investments, short-term investments. Also saying the world is going to become more digital, less hierarchical. So some decisions you will have to take based on business side. The only principle I have always believed in is fairness and transparency. Whatever you do, be fair and be very transparent in communication to all your stakeholders within the organization and outside of the organization as to what will be the impact of this reassessment. And for any business, risk adjusted return is the benchmark. But the only principle I would go by is that be transparent, right? Be fair and communicate right up front rather than through via. That's the only principle I look at. But that is a reality. You can't hide away from reality.
Absolutely. And I think the worst thing that you can do is to give reassurances which are not based on reality. And then when the bubble bursts, everyone loses their credibility. Preeti, is there any last burning question before we end the session? I know now we are stretching
I think
beyond 5 questions. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this one was there from quite a few people, but if you have to ask one, which is actually specifically on for Kotak Bank, Shanti, it says that, how are you looking at really balancing the survival and sustainability when you look at the cost, the people, and the aspects you spoke about? But I think we've kind of covered it in your conversation. But if you have any last message that you want to leave with the attendees.
You've got to look at everything. I'm saying that our core business is around customers and people. And you've got to look at every process, every technology, every product, every function, every revenue line, and reassess how it will look in the post-COVID era. And I think we have already been doing that, I can tell you, in the last 50 days. Everybody is working round the clock at all levels of employees, okay? And we have a plan. I'm saying we worked out a plan, etc. And luckily, we were always open. Our branches were always open. We're doing, our customers are coming in, our staff is there. But I'm saying you have to reassess everything to say, will this change? Will it be the same? And take decisions on that basis. Where it's not just cost, it is about business, product, top line, people, cost, infrastructure, technology, risk, fraud, everything.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful talking to you. And thank you so much, Shanti, for your time. And I know that questions will never end, just like the Zoom calls. But what we are going to do is not only keep the recording available for everyone, but out of the series of leadership webinars that we have done, we are converting that into a very nice article on what we see leaders doing across
overall learning.
industries, so that that learning can go to everyone. Thank you so much, Shanti, for your time, and everyone else who has attended.
Yeah, thank you so much, I think, for your engaging questions, and it has been a great learning with both the leaders. Thank you so much, and look forward to.
Thank you, Prasenji. I don't know who are all listening to this, but thank you, listeners, for a very patient hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thanks.